What's up, fellas? It's Ed here from Geek, and we're back for another Google Ads Agency Roundtable. What's up, guys?
What's up?
What's
All
up?
right. So, as you see, there's a fifth person on screen today. This is Michael Cooney, the co-founder of What Converts, the call tracking software. A couple weeks ago, we did a roundtable, and we were discussing call tracking options, specifically CallRail versus What Converts. And Michael popped into the YouTube channel comments and said he'd be interested in coming on and just chatting software. And he comes from the agency side of things. So I'm excited to have him on today to have a quick chat. Michael, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I love agencies. That's where I come from. So I saw you guys having a good chat, and I thought I'd love to be part of the conversation. And that's the whole mission of What Converts, is just to help agencies do better marketing and to basically increase their value, for themselves and their clients. Awesome.
So you said you came from the agency world. What's your background on the agency side of things?
Do you want the long version or the short version?
Well, give us the long one. What do you got?
Well, it starts with I was an electrical engineer building gold mines in South Africa, and I dealt with a lot of suppliers. And when I saw the internet for the first time, I was like, wow, this is incredible. All my suppliers are going to be online. I can just get the information and it'll be easy. And nobody was online. This is back in 96. I'm sort of dating myself. So I went to the large directories around that time who organized this information. I said, hey, you got to get on the web. And they looked at me and they said, you're crazy. You're playing football while we're playing baseball on a different field. So I started a directory, and that was my journey in internet marketing. And we would get advertising in the directory to reach engineers. And it was always a problem tracking leads. So from the directory, we then transitioned to be a SEO agency, because what we were doing with the directory, we're getting to Google, and we were doing SEO when it was even before Google started. And we would download our log files from the server. This was before any Google Analytics or Urchin tracking. And we would parse out the keyword data from log files. So that's how long we go back in SEO. So it's really easy now. You get wonderful tools. So we were getting great SEO results early on, and more clients that were in the directory says, hey, can you get us there? So we opened up an agency, developed the websites to get them online. And ultimately the agency became the bigger part. The directory sort of got crushed by Google because people just searched Google ultimately. But from the directory to starting the agency to then showing value to clients through SEO and then ultimately PPC as well, we kept running into issues. So first of all, we got our clients addicted to growth rate in traffic. So they'd start on the search engines, all of a sudden, 100% growth rate. Second year, 100% growth rate. Third year, now you're at the top of the search positions. And we named it the dreaded SEO plateau. So what you realize is when you get there, when you're at the top and you're providing maximum value, I mean, they're getting leads because of the positions, but we got them addicted to growth rate, we'd get fired. And we were like, okay, no, this isn't cool. And then from there, I also started seeing patterns in the PPC world and the SEO world where it was like, well, how many blog posts will you do? How many keywords are you going to manage for me? And ultimately, my sales pitch as an agency was, we're going to deliver leads, and that's how you're going to measure us. So they would say, well, how many keywords? And I said, it doesn't matter. How many hours are you going to spend? It doesn't matter. We're delivering leads. And so you'll value us on leads. So we started doing that, and that made the sales process and the conversation so much better, because clients understand leads are basically opportunities to make a sale. And the more opportunities we give them, the more sales they make, the happier they are. And this was going great. We developed great conversion tracking in Google Analytics. We even custom created some software where it would append the marketing source to any form submissions. So you guys aren't glazing over yet, are you?
No, I'm loving the story.
Okay.
you had me at a gold mine in South Africa, because that's actually where Nick came up.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Already.
Just pops the balls.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. We'll find it out then. So what happened is we were tracking forums, we're appending the source and the keywords, so we knew exactly which forum came from what campaigns and all that, and it would be sent to some clients into an email inbox, to other clients it would go to potentially a CRM. And then we were like missing the phone call portion. So we actually, we opened up an account with CallRail, and we were using CallRail. And I was like, I went into a client meeting. So we're running PPC for this one client, and we had doubled the conversions because we were tracking calls, we were tracking forms. And I went in there, I was like, hey, we doubled conversions. Isn't that great? And the client was like, well, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? I said, look, we got you 100 conversions. We're up from 50. And they said, well, how many were good? And I was like, damn it, man. So now I have to go into the forms, find the forms from that campaign, group those together, then try and get the phone calls together. And it was like 2-3 hours of work. And I said, screw this. I'm done with this. And my developer who was working with me, he had left for a corporate job paying him double the money I could pay him. And he had come back to me and he says, Michael, is there anything we can work on together? I don't want to work for you, but I want to build something with you. And I said, you know what? I've got this idea. And I said, if we can track forms and calls and put them all into one database, a nice dashboard. So when these clients ask these questions, which are good questions, but they're annoying if you can't answer them. I said, I think we got something. But I said, here's the key point. And what's interesting is we're known for call tracking, which is another story in itself. But I said, for us to proceed, you must be able to track any form on any website within 5 minutes. Because I'd done enough work with through the agency where we built these huge product catalogs, but it takes 6 months just to get the data. And I knew if we needed something to catch fire and grow, we needed to be able to implement it within 5 minutes, and the barrier to entry, the friction needs to be really low. So he went away for a week and he came back and he says, I can do it. I said, so any form on any website, they don't need to change the form. They just add a line of code and we can track it. He says, yeah. So I tested it out and it worked beautifully. And then I'm like, well, what happens if somebody has 10 fields in a form or somebody has 20 fields in a form? He says, not a problem. We developed a database structure that doesn't matter how many form fields you have, we can accommodate it and capture it. And then I said, okay, so we'll just integrate with CallRail then to fill the data. And he was like, no, we can do that too. So I said, really? Okay. So that's how What Converts was born. We were on a golf course. We played a round of golf and we said, should we do this? And he says, yeah. And I said, okay, 50-50. Yep. Let's go for it.
Very cool. I love the working story.
When was that? When did What Converts come into being?
That round of golf was September 2014. And then from there, we went into development and March 2015. So about 6 months of development to get to the first version.
So if you don't have to answer this, if you don't want to, how many clients do you guys have, or how many users do you have on your system?
Yeah, it's interesting. I go on the CallRail website and they say they have 200,000 companies that they serve, which is a little misleading. So What happens is our software tracks 40,000 companies, their websites, but our direct customers are like agencies like you guys. So one agency could represent 100 companies. Well, I thought for many years, reporting to clients is difficult. And what happens and what I see all the time is marketing agencies, you look at analytics and it looks great. You get a lot of insights from Google Analytics. You see bounce rate, you see which pages are being visited, you see how long they stay. But when you show them to a client, they sort of, they don't know what they're looking at. They don't know how to value it. So putting it in terms of leads, clients understand leads. They know that leads are the fuel for sales. They know that, leads are opportunities. So we're very much lead focused. We're going to enable you to report on leads. You can also report on how many qualified leads you got it can be by source and medium or by keyword or by landing page. There's any metric we capture, any form field we get, you can create a report around it. So for instance, if your customer wants
qualification of leads, though, how is that going to work? Like, is it going to be based on CRM integration? It's going to be based on manually plugging in data inside your backend. What do you think that would look like?
So our dashboard, you can do it in our dashboard. You can do it through an email notification. You can do it when you receive a phone call, and after the phone call, you can dial one for, qualified or not. Or CRM. If you get a lot of leads and there's a longer sales cycle, we recommend a CRM. And we have, so there's several companies that integrate with the CRM. So we have APIs, we have webhooks, and we also integrate with Zapier. So it makes it super easy. And we've seen clients integrate with like a Zoho CRM. And we send the lead into their CRM. They then make it into a contact, add an opportunity. And then as that lead goes through the sales process, it fires information back to What Converts. So now within What Converts, you can then report in value, like how much quote value came from this keyword. Or you can create dimension groups, like grouping keywords into a group. And then, like, for instance, the dentist, he can run a report saying, show me the sales value we generated for these dental procedures. So they'll know the value of dental crowns, tooth extractions, implants, things like that. Or if you're a plumber, drainage, sewer drain repair or water heater repair. If they integrate with the CRM, we can add value to that data, and it enables them to, bid more intelligently.
And when you pass that data back from CRM to you guys, do you have to use some kind of a unique identifier, or is it based on phone number and email? And I'm asking nerdy questions because I'm probably the bigger nerd here, but I'm just curious.
So the most accurate method is when we pass over the lead, if you include our lead ID, which is a unique ID, and you just use that lead ID and it'll report back. We have made it where you can query our database for phone number and email address. So if you don't pass back the email address, the lead ID, you can try and match it up with phone number and email.
Okay, I was curious.
Got it. Question on sub accounts. So one thing we do with CallRail is we set up individual companies for clients. Is that something that What Converts has the capacity to do? And something that could be white labeled where there's, for lack of a better term, lack of transparency, so that they don't know we're actually in there, that type of situation?
So our platform is completely white labeled. What Converts is totally hidden. And our account structure, we have a 3-tier account structure. We have a master account. And then under that, you have accounts, which is accessible by, you can give users access to those individual accounts. And then we have profile level. So we have a lot of really large franchises who have thousands of locations, and our account structure is very efficient. And you can get to any account within seconds with our platform.
We give agencies access to their accounts inside of What Converts. So we've got the master account. The agency may have access to one or more accounts. And then the client may have access to their account as well, if that answers the question.
Got it. So they'd have it, the end user client would have it at like the profile level, and then the agency would have it at like the tier 2, and then you'd be at master level at tier 3.
So the master level is the agency that owns the umbrella account, really.
Got it.
And then the account level, that's accessible by a username and password. The profile level is just under an account, so that's not user access controlled. But like Mark was saying, if you have an agency you're representing and they have 5 clients, you can give that agency just access to those 5 accounts within your master account. So when they log in, they'll have access to those 5.
Got it. Question about landing page integrations. Which of the landing page softwares do you integrate with?
So we have an integration with Unbounce.
Okay.
I'd have to look at the other ones, but pretty much if they've got a web form, we can track it, and then you can just add our tracking code to the landing page, and it tracks the phone number. So you got your phone number and your forms tracked very easily. The only thing that we have with Unbounce that's added is we send back conversions into their reporting. So all the others, we can receive all the data from any of those landing pages very easily, as long as you can add a tracking code to the page.
Got it. And then with CallRail, for every client, we get a pool of numbers. We get a pool of typically 4 at least for the main campaign, and then an additional one for the call extension number. How does it work with you guys? And we're using CallRail as of right now. Like how do you guys handle that side of it? Yeah,
very similar. We have dynamic number pools. We don't require a minimum You can start with 2 if it's a really low traffic site. We recommend 4 just for so you don't have misattribution. But if it is really low traffic, you can start with 2 numbers. But yeah, it's all manageable. It's I don't know, Mark. It's a pretty good. We think the interface is pretty good.
I'm a software guy. I love the interface. I used to develop software. I still remember software I used 10 years ago that had a great interface. That's how weird I am. Like Dustin would probably appreciate this level of nerdiness.
Yes.
And I happened to be in CallRail yesterday for a client, and like, man, am I thankful I'm not in here every day. It's just got a very elegant interface, very simple. You're not sitting there trying to figure out what to do. Very simple to use. I've liked it from the beginning. My journey was I was a CallRail user. I had concerns about costs and support, not the software itself. It did its job, though I understand you guys have had a little challenge recently. But then I went to PhoneWagon. I knew Ryan, who owned PhoneWagon, and it was cool. And then, of course, Ryan sold out to CallRail. And I'm like, I got to do something. I'm not doing this. I'm looking up. One of the problems we always had was attributing call extensions inside of Google and tracking those accurately. So I'm doing some Googling. I come to a page on Google's site about Google AdWords tracking those extensions, and they reference what converts. I'm like, what's what converts? I've been doing this forever.
Wait, back up. You're telling me that what converts is in a Google Doc recommendation or a example?
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you must send me that.
Yeah.
That's how I found it. I was on Google, and it's like you use something like it was kind of like you use something like what converts. And I'm like, what the hell is what converts? I've been doing this forever. I don't know what converts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I looked it up, and I'm like, this is sweet. And the other thing was, you guys answered all my pre-sales questions, and you answer post-sales questions. My experience with, let's say, other vendors is I will send in a request. 24 hours, they will send back a wrong canned answer to me. So then I can send in another request. You guys just like, oh, let's take a look. Boom, boom, boom. Here's the answer. Okay, cool.
Yeah. The funny story with the support is my co-founder, Jeremy, he's the technical and the developer side. So he's had to deal with support, and one of his hates, he's really passionate in his hates about technical support. and we're on another golf course when we're talking about this, and he says to me, Michael, what converse has to have the best support? And I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll have good support. He said, no, you don't understand. He says, we are going to offer technically competent support within 15 minutes. And to this day, he jumps into support. And if the support team aren't answering, if there's a ticket that's sitting there for longer than like 30 minutes, they get reamed out. And so support is super important to us, and it's become, we sort of see it as a feature of the software. That, and it comes from Jeremy's hatred for bad support.
Got it. I like it. All right. So what we do with these videos is we typically will splice up lots of other videos, which is one of the videos that you had commented on, the CallRail versus what converts. So I want to make another video with your input this time, as opposed to all of us just talking smack. What converts versus CallRail out of the mouth of the co-founder? What do you see as the big differences, the pros and cons of each?
What's your USP?
Yep.
Our USP, we're lead tracking for marketing agencies and clients, and CallRail is a call tracking company that's sort of bolted on form tracking and things like that. If you get real nerdy and you go into the data structure, like when I mentioned earlier, you can get, if you've got a form on your website that has 20 fields versus 4 fields, CallRail, the way the data structure works, it sort of gets the common 6 form fields in one thing. So their data structure is more rigid. So, okay, I'm doing a bad job answering this, but basically, as a lead tracking platform, because What Converts was built from the beginning to accept all sorts of data and all types of leads in one thing, what you'll find is a unified lead tracking experience. So it's calls, it's forms, it's chat, it's e-commerce. And when you're running all those different types as a marketer, people don't just convert on one type, and it's important to see the complete picture. So if you're just using a call tracking provider, they're great for call tracking. But you do need to see the other sides, or at least me as a marketer doing effective marketing, I just find I need to see the complete picture. Because if you got called in one area and forms in another, it's very easy to double count those conversions. So, you go into your customer saying, we got you 2 leads. And it's like, well, not really. You got them 1 lead. So that's one thing. I think it's just the underlying platform. We value lead data very highly. So we collect a lot of lead data. You can add lead data. And once we have the lead data, we then provide you with tools to make that lead data accessible. Because if you've got data and you can't query it, access it, like sort it, filter it, just like if you've got a question, for instance, if you've got a landing page and you say, I wonder what landing pages gets the most leads, what converts can tell you that in seconds. And then you can filter it down. So like a landing page that includes the word like drainage, you can see that in seconds in our platform. If you have a report where it's like, I looked at it the other day where we had 26 signups from one campaign, and I was like, oh, is that legit? So if you're going back to Google Analytics days, and you see goal completions and you see 26 goal completions, like conversions happened, and you're like, what's the value of those? Who were those people? Were they quality? So with What Converts, you get 26 conversions. Even if your client isn't qualifying them and you want to look at them, it's just a single click and you'll see all 26 conversions. And then you can create your view and save a view where you can see the contact name, the email address, the phone number. You can even add the field like the message field from your form, like what they wanted, all in one view. And then you can set up your columns where you can qualify them like within seconds. So I know this is a long answer, but we've been in the call tracking bucket and we compared against other call tracking companies, but What Converts is a much larger platform to that. The reason we like being in the call tracking bucket is because it converts really well. It's a conversion type where you need a third party. And many times, even though I value form tracking in What Converts like super high, most people were like, well, I track my forms in analytics, or I track them in, my CRM. But it's just with the experience I've had and gathering the data, what I've seen is like when you capture all the form data with your marketing data and your form data all in one place, and you have questions like, for instance, I'll give you an example. You're running a campaign and you want to get insights like, how do I get better results for this campaign? What I'll do is I'll just go look at the leads from a campaign and I'll read the transcript of phone calls and I'll read the message in the form. And for instance, we got an example of like, alloy rims or alloy wheels, and what terms do people convert on those? And you start seeing words like the people saying, hey, I've got scratches on my rims, or my rim is bent, or do you weld rims? And you just look at their words. And that was one of my tactics when I was in an agency. The first thing I'd do when I brought on a new client is I'd say, let me speak to your salespeople. And then I'd ask them, what words do the people say when they speak to you? Say, hey, I'm looking for X and it needs to have this. Tell me the words. Give me the forms that were filled in before. I want to read all the form data. So with What Converts, you don't have to go to the sales team. You just go to, our dashboard. You go through, you read through 10 items and you get new keywords, you get new insights, you get to see, what can convert better. So that's one example of having the data in one place just allows you to get better insights. The other thing, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask a question really quick on that. Do you guys use like a keyword cloud or something so that makes finding those words easier than having to look at a transcript and hear call recordings? We can start seeing popular terms people are verbally either saying or on a web form.
That's a feature coming very soon in our lead intelligence. It's currently being developed. So with that call cloud, so in terms of like just capturing the keywords from an ad campaign, we do that automatically in a report, but the actual keywords from within the transcript. You can export to an Excel spreadsheet and then take the transcript and put it in a free word cloud. I've done that. They'll take you a couple of minutes, but yeah, we plan to build that in.
Well,
And then what about the e-commerce tracking? Oh, sorry.
No, I just wanted to bring up my favorite feature. You guys tell me if this is in CallRail or not. I don't remember it. It wasn't in PhoneWagon. The transcription is beautiful because I don't have to listen to calls anymore. I can read them in a snapshot, know if it's a good call.
Yep. They do have transcription. They have keyword spotting, which is kind of like the same sort of a deal where you can score based on certain keywords that people say in the call. Like,
Oh, that's cool.
I guess if they say credit card, you know that they're probably giving it to you or something, or Visa or MasterCard, I guess, you're probably getting a sale. But yeah, they have that. So as far as e-commerce, like, how are you reporting on that? Is it the actual orders being completed? You're pulling the revenue data. I mean, how does that practically work when you've got like clients that are on the Shopify store? They're obviously looking there. Like, what do you see the benefit is for that, having that report together?
Yeah, so we've got, so for Shopify is different to WooCommerce. We got a little script that we give you that you put on your order confirmation page. And then we got any dynamic fields that are within the checkout page, like the order ID, the email address, the person's name, their physical address, and the value, the tax, the shipping. Those fields can be captured inside what converts through that script.
Dustin, why did you ask about e-commerce? You're getting out of that. Remember we talked
Yeah, I'm just curious, maybe people that are watching this could see there's value for that, like maybe they'll say, hey, because, not many call tracking platforms that talk about e-commerce. I was just kind of curious where that is. I think maybe are you guys doing anything for enhanced conversions?
Yeah, I mean, enhanced conversions, we kind of do that anyway. I looked at enhanced conversions and they try and match conversions based on email address and phone number. But it's like we already tied back to your GCL ID, so it's going to be more accurate. Trying to match by phone number and email address is not going to be as accurate as if you tie it to the individual contact, which we do.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's sort of like, yeah, we do that already, and it's they make it sound like it's a big deal, but it's not that big a deal.
Well, it is if you're not using. Well, it can be depending on what kind of tracking you've got set up, because like some of the call platforms or some of the people that use them, they're more heavy on using like Google Analytics without like a Google tag on it, so you can't even use enhanced conversions. And I think, we'll see what it looks like in the future, but I've seen already where they are talking about maybe not having GCL IDs in the future once we get closer to a pixelless situation. So I don't know if that's going to be the case. I've just heard whisperings of that. And that's where I'm like, well, I hope everybody like you guys are ready for that, because that's going to be a big change if we come to that point.
I thought they were leaning more on the G-CLIDs, and I guess GCL ID, however you say it. I thought they were leaning more on those in the future. Now you're hearing that they're going away?
I've heard I've already seen like the web raid, which is like another identifier. Have you seen that in the URLs instead of G-CLID is web raid? Not sure why it's different.
Yeah,
we get picked up.
We updated our platform, so we'll be able to capture the web raid and the new tags.
Yeah.
So it's a bit hazy exactly how it works, but we're ready for it. We've already put in some coding to capture what it is, but it's like how they use it is a little bit of it's not like we're not 100%. We've got a fairly good idea, and so we think we got that covered. I mean, the one thing I was going to ask you guys is how many of you use the automated bidding versus your
I do.
menu?
Not always, but a lot of times.
Like 90% of the time, 95% of the time.
I use it 100% of the time that it works better than manual.
Yeah,
Dude,
If I had a choice, I
Yeah.
prefer it because they could do more than humans can do most of the time, but not all the time.
You
Yeah.
should just run Performance Max.
Yeah, Performance Max or Smart Campaign is what you want to be running, Dustin.
Yeah.
We actually are using Performance Max, but it's all e-commerce based. And
Well,
in some cases, it's actually
there it
doing
works.
fairly well. But
Yeah, there it can work. Yeah.
Michael, on the outlier, I do a lot of manual. We do probably 80% manual. We'll let Google take the wheel on a couple things with TCPA, max conversion. But 9 times out of 10, we prefer to do manual. We start everything manual.
We
Okay.
start everything manual.
And
we do too.
I'm real estate, so I do residential real estate. So we're doing all homes for sale stuff like that.
So how much do you pay per lead on average for a real estate lead?
Well, Mark has that answer. It's funny. Right before you jumped on, Mark was talking to me about this. He had a company that told him what his numbers were. It is 100% dictated on like the amount of traffic, the search traffic, the market. So Scottsdale, I always use Scottsdale, Arizona, and we can use Charlotte as a good example. Scottsdale, Arizona, you can't find a house under $1 million. You can find a condo, but you can't find a house. So you have people in there that are willing to pay $2, $3 a click. We usually get it at about $1.20 or $1.50 a click. In Charlotte, we could probably get away with getting like 75 cents a click. Now, lead cost, it's dictated by what that cost per click is looking at. Charlotte, we can get $12 leads. Scottsdale, you're probably looking at $20 leads.
$20 leads. That's not bad.
You can get a lot cheaper leads if we put shitty keyword terms in there too, like cheap foreclosure short sale. So Mark, I can help you game those numbers to make the leads get a lot cheaper. It just won't be good quality. But yeah, so we always like to jump out in front and try to force our hand in doing all the right things with ad copy and landing pages. So when we go to Google and get to the auction, we say, well, we want to pay 65 cents. And I know your recommendation is $2. And then we do enhanced, obviously, enhanced CPC. And we'll usually get it under $1. If we need more traffic, we'll push on it a bit more.
So you're not coming up against the lending trees and the larger realty companies?
Oh, no, we compete with them all day long. Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of search volume in it. Depending on the markets, we're able to, like, I'll be very honest with our clients and say, if your budget's not big, I'm removing mobile because mobile is trash for search intent compared to desktops. Somebody sitting at their desk looking at houses, completely different lead quality, right? That's a high intent. So yeah, there's a lot of search volume. It's all dictated on where they want it and stuff. That's why Google really struggles AI side with real estate, is because they can't differentiate anything.
Okay. And then what about your, how many click to call, your call ad extensions do you get compared to like coming through to your website and converting?
Not enough. We're starting to see it more. That's where Google does I think Google limits our ability on click to call if we're not doing automated, right? So we've got some automated campaigns that the click to call is a lot, the phone calls are a lot more prominent. Yeah, we don't get a ton of volume. I also was slow to the game of doing call rail or call tracking metrics, and now I'll probably be a client of yours in the near future, because real estate agents don't answer their phone. And you would think, and phone rings, it's an $8,000 to $20,000 check on the other line, and they don't answer their phone. Crazy. Yeah, being able to track that with your stuff. And I'll tell you right now, your USP is you guys are a lead conversion tracking company. You're not a call tracking. Yeah. Call tracking is something that you might lead with, but what you have and your solutions compared to your competitors is amazing. I mean,
oh, awesome. That's what I want to hear, but it's been a harder journey than you'd expect to get to to that point, because call tracking converts, but not many people are looking for this lead tracking.
Right.
But one thing I want to mention on automated bidding, and one thing a lot of our agencies really appreciate with us, is when we send conversions back to Google Ads, we spent a lot of time making sure that the conversions are legit. So even when you look at the leads table inside What Converts, we will tell you what leads have successfully been passed to Google. So if you're like, did this lead get received from Google? Like, our platform will tell you that. You can also choose when to trigger when a conversion gets sent over. What's the most successful method you've used to encourage people to actually mark the value of their leads inside the software? Patience. Because I come from the agency world and I understand clients, but an interesting thing is happening, and this is my hypothesis going forward, as marketing is getting more expensive and it's getting more competitive, and the better your data, the cleaner your data, the better the results. So when it hurts your client's pocket, and they begin to ask questions like, well, what leads did I get? And then you show them, through What Converts, and then they see them like, well, this is great. And it's like, you can qualify. Oh, I can qualify it. And then once they start asking questions and they really want to get into the marketing and like, how can we push this, or why does it cost me more? And you show them and they realize that they can have a finger on it, they ultimately come around. But it takes patience, and it takes them to get to a position where they want it bad enough.
Can I ask a question on that? With pushing Google, pushing conversion data or quality data back to the pixel, suppose a client isn't a very good sales organization. They don't know how to qualify and close deals. And what one company would say is an awesome lead, they're not able to close because the person called for a quote, which is a buying signal, but they don't know how to close a quote. How does that affect sending that data back to Google Pixel when it's one thing for one company and another thing for another company?
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge. Every single company is different. And I'm going to give you a roundabout answer because when we started What Converts, it was like, we're going to integrate with CRMs and these people to make it work better. And what we found is technically it's not a problem. We can connect to software. The problem is the people, getting them to do the thing. So the reason inside What Converts, we don't call a lead qualified. We call it, is it quotable? Like, can you quote this lead? And the reason we did that is because it's like, well, is a lead qualified if they sort of asked? It's like, no, can you quote this lead? Yes, it's quotable, meaning qualified. So that's what we try to do. But the human problem is an issue, and we're trying to solve that just by having a better user interface, make it more convenient. We're spending a lot more time developing some training because we believe all leads coming into What Converts and qualifying them, you're going to be able to organize it better. You're never going to lose one. You can use our dashboard to actually assign it to people. And then you can do it as they answer it, like with the view, you can get to inbox 0. So if you got leads and you got 10 leads, you tell your staff, okay, you need to action these. As you action them and you change the status, it will, disappear from the lead. So I just think that it's going to be a method where you don't forget or lose leads. And it's a way to, so for management, if they look at their staff and they're like, dude, you've got 5 leads there that you haven't actioned, they'll get that insight, they'll get their staff to do it. So that's a direction we think is going to help as well. But it does require training. I saw one of Mark's videos he did on how he qualified leads, and he is going into each individual lead and qualifying them. Our platform allows you to change the columns where you can just qualify from a list view and like do it a lot quicker. But a lot of people, they don't realize this yet.
Did you just call out my video? Is that
yeah,
what you did?
I did. It was a great video. And I was like, but you could do that.
There's an easier way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you did it a great way, but there's an easier way, but it just showed me we've got a training. That's probably going to be one of my main functions is training.
Well, the cool thing about it from a CRM perspective is I'm sure a lot of our clients are not using a CRM. The typical CRM wants to take you through a journey, blah, 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 blah. And this narrows it down pretty much to, is it quotable? Did I quote it? Did I sell it? And in the end, if you're not going to go through all the, steps that a typical CRM makes you go, those are super important ones. And then for us, a few companies that I've got to actually do that, we're able to not only go back to not only improve our Google Ads performance, but say, the biggest problem you're having here is not your lead quality or your quotes, it's your close rate.
Yeah. Because
they're quoting almost every lead, they're not closing them. And then say, maybe what you do is offer, one case we said offer a first-time discount. And all of a sudden their close rate doubled, because they weren't just quoting them. They were quoting them, say, we do have a first-time caller discount that's available today type of thing. And boom. But that data wouldn't have, otherwise we'd have just seen lead data and say, we're getting you leads, why aren't you closing them? And what's the story with the leads, Nick?
The leads aren't weak, you're weak.
Yeah, you're weak. No, but it's amazing. I mean, with this platform, we had an engine supplier. They supplied diesel engines and we're sending them leads. And they're like, yeah, these leads aren't just they're not doing anything for us. So I listened to the calls and literally the one call the guy answers it's like, Ed, That's how you answer the call. And the guy was like,
That's how Ed answers his phone.
yeah,
That's
well,
really
yeah.
it. There-
Ed,
we had a
got
client.
to, got to do better, Ed.
We had a client who will remain nameless who replied to a landing page form submission, letting the client know to go to his main website and fill out another form so that an estimator could give him a call. I was like,
Dude, no.
I was like, what?
Let's add additional friction to the
And he
sales
didn't-
process.
You didn't even give
Yeah.
him the website. He said, just go to my main website, fill
Yeah.
out a quote, and an estimator will call you. I was like, oh my
I
gosh.
mean,
Like he just did. You mean?
Yeah, I was like,
I have a
crazy.
quick question about conversion action. So this is something that CallRail, they force you to use one conversion action for calls. They'll create two if you want to do first time and just all call, or first time or repeat calls separate. I'm pretty sure they do anyway. But is there a way in your system to create custom conversions? Because the reason why the use case would be being able to see unqualified and qualified calls. Why? Because you might want to know where you're getting a bunch of crap calls from, especially you look at maybe a franchise application where you've got different sales teams in each market, and you want to know which ones are dead wood, which ones are not closing a sale. Because you can say, look, you got, instead of just sending the qualified calls, you want to know how many calls you got in general, right? So it's kind of being able to compare percentage of leads closed or qualified to actually getting revenue from them. So just kind of curious if you have, or it's come up where you could have custom conversion actions based on certain either triggers or criteria.
Because I mean, I'm trying to think how. You're almost going to make me do a live demo with you guys, but I didn't set it up.
we will. You can come back on and do a full demo.
A full demo. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do it separate. And we'll do a next one on Zoom.
Yeah.
Where actually we're on Zoom, but we'll do another one where we do like the whole call will be all demo.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, yeah, I'll take up that opportunity, definitely. But the to answer, so there's many ways to do it. So in our dashboard, you can choose to see like unique or repeat visitors. That's one way. You can run our reports and you can choose to report by unique or repeat as well, or just everybody. So it's your choice if you want.
Is that a report or is that sending the data back to Google? I'm referring to sending the data back to Google. So
so where you're sending back to Google Ads?
As like a secondary conversion. So we had a We Buy Houses guy that we worked with for a while. Kept changing the types of conversions that we wanted. But what we found is that we want to see all the leads we get, but he wanted to count as qualified people who went through a certain process, right? And that was being fed back to CRM. But part of it was having, an all leads, to say an all leads conversion, a qualified, unqualified conversion. And in your case, because you're allowing people to do certain rules with the phone calls and basically scoring them or grading them, with CallRail, you have either first time callers or you just get all the phone calls as one conversion action. But to my knowledge, you can't create another one based on a set of rules. So I'm just asking you, is that ever come up before where it's like, I'd love to just know how many calls fall in this category sent to Google as this conversion action, which could be set up as a secondary conversion for like data purposes in Google Ads, not necessarily something that you're going to optimize or smart bid for. You might actually do the opposite of that.
So
But it's easier to see your wood and your chaff in one place, not have to, I see qualified, but how many do we actually get raw calls? I have to go back into what converts to see that data where I could just see it in both places.
So you could set up a conversion called not quoted or something like that.
Exactly. You can see the difference because what I found is you want to see both. You want to see the total leads and how many of those leads were actually quotable or qualified. And it could be that the leads are bad, right? Right, Nick? Or it could be that the sales team sucks and they can't quote, but you're not going to know unless you know both those numbers, right?
So I mean, are you doing it for your data purposes or do you want that data in Google Ads for automated bidding purposes?
Google Ads, because that's what we're optimizing from. When they're working on an account, the data is right in front of you. I can segment by device. I can segment by campaign, by ad group, by date range. If I do that in what converts and I go back to Google, it's a total nightmare. It's no offense. It's just any system. It's a total nightmare to do that.
Okay. So at the moment, how we work at What Converts is like, if you make a good use case, like we'll put it in the development timeline. But at the moment, you can choose the different triggers, which I mentioned, and then you can update that same conversion multiple times. So, you can send it as a qualified lead, and then you can update again with the sales value. And then if you update the sales value again, it'll update that conversion again. So it's the same conversion updated multiple times. We don't send additional conversions each time because that gets a bit crazy. But that's something we can look at. I know it's possible with Google Ads to do additional conversions. We don't have that built in at this time.
Well, I think what you're saying is if I get this call and it's unqualified, that's a secondary conversion. It's not a conversion at all. This call is qualified.
Yeah, that's what we did manually. We did that using basically passing the data through offline conversion import through Zoho back into Google. But wouldn't it be great if you just do it based on the system that's supposedly tracking your calls, your forms, and everything else? You don't even need. I mean, you still integrate the system with your CRM to know that information, but you don't have to worry about getting it back to Google another way, right?
This is so we are doing some development that's going to be all around, we're talking keyword spotting, like automation rules and things like that. So within that, I've got a feeling we're going to be able to allow you to do that.
Yeah, I just think the use case for it is valuable because you still, it's like, do I want to see all my leads or just the qualified? Well, you're still missing the other part of the equation if you only do one of them either way. So you might as well see both, right? That's kind of where I'm going.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was also thinking because some people send data through analytics and then into Google.
Yeah, that's a big nightmare right there because the attribution models are different. You got, last click that they look at, you look at the time of conversions different because they're looking at the day it happened versus the day the click happened. So I hate using Google Analytics or any importing of goals because you basically always lose data in the process. And if, God forbid, you have your domain set up not as a referral exclusion, or you're in e-commerce and you take, PayPal, and then you didn't add that as a referral exclusion, all those places are now all of a sudden generating revenue for you. It's just a whole nightmare. And when you start messing with Google Analytics, that's like a can of worms you just don't want to open up, in my opinion. Just let me use the pixel.
I'm just trying to think of creative ways to get around the current use case. But you're right. You don't want to plug in two sources of data and double count, and you don't know what's counting. I mean, it's like misattribution between Google Ads, and so you can imagine with Google Ads, if you get a lead, and what if they're a second visit that came through Google Ads? Do you send that conversion to Google Ads?
Yeah, so the pixel works. The pixel takes credit for any conversion that it fired for, just like Facebook does. Analytics is your kind of the guy that's like holding these two guys. Hold up. Let's see who really got this. But they have their own problems, right? So, like I like to use Google Pixel, knowing there might be other touches happening. So what? Like usually, you look at first click attribution if you want to know, did it start it or did it finish it? Ultimately, I think for a lot of the people we all work with on the non-e-commerce side, it's usually a pretty short sales, click to call window. It's not like they're going back for 3 days and then calling it. Maybe in Nick's case it would be, I guess.
Well, what's nice with inside what converts and what you're saying, when you want to analyze data, like within, whether be here before, whether they repeat, whether they're qualified and they're non-qualified, like that entire customer journey, we showed really nicely inside what converts. So one of the use cases I love is, so I still have my agency and I've just got a handful of clients that I keep going and I sort of use what converts on them. And with them, the issue was like, they've been a client for 10 years and we got them a customer like 4 years ago. And so then a new lead comes in and I'm saying, hey, this is a new lead. And they're saying, well, that's an existing customer. So we don't count any existing customers. We don't give marketing credit for existing customers. But now with the customer journey, I can see they came in through Google Organic originally. So that was attributed to our marketing efforts. Then 4 years later, they came back through Google Organic. They didn't come to your homepage. They came to a very specific page that only got there through a keyword. So I'm able to say to them, that wouldn't have happened if marketing wasn't doing their job. That person would have gone elsewhere. So having that customer journey and being able to see that clearly, I've used it several times, and the customer
or
looks
tell
at
them
them
that their sales wasn't doing their job and not following up. And that's a brand new search. If they're going to Google looking for you, that's not a branded search. That's marketing generated.
So I'm curious about something. I've got a question for you. We're all Google oriented, Google Ads oriented. What other platforms, types of people or industries are you seeing use what converts? As well?
Yeah, I'd say number one is Google Ads. There's also Microsoft Ads or Bing Ads. There's Facebook, but Facebook tends to be like spas, local kind of business like hair cutting, sports clips, mathnasium, for math education. So they'll get some Facebook coming through as well. We do see some LinkedIn, but I mean, to be honest, the 800-pound gorillas are Google Ads and Google Organic. We do some newsletter. Like if you've got a newsletter and you put in UTM parameters, we'll track that as well. So we see those kind of actions. We do see some industry specific directories that we track. So with us, with our dynamic number pool, you don't have to set up that you're tracking a specific source. We'll just track it all. And then our reporting will reveal where it's coming from. So in the industrial engineering world, there's things like ThomasNet. That's a large industrial directory. Mm-hmm. There's like the legal world, there's avo.com. There's other, legal directories. Same thing with dentists and doctors. There's plumbers as well. So yeah, lots of plumbers. The interesting thing, I just found the world fascinating, whereas I was speaking to a company and plumbing and HVAC do so well, for call tracking companies because the urgency is there. You need a plumber, it's going to be urgent. So like you'd think roofing would be, would generate a lot of leads, and they do, and they're high value, and it seems like a good vertical to go after, but they don't have that urgency factor. So they don't convert as quickly as the plumbing and the HVAC. So seeing these things, but I love seeing it with agencies that they get a vertical, they understand the vertical and they understand the value of the vertical, and they charge their value. So just seeing an agency, there's one agency where they look for plumbers that have 5 trucks, and their mission is to go to 10 trucks. So if they got 5 trucks, they're probably doing anything from 2 to 4 million in annual revenue, and so their sales pitch is, we'll take you to 10 million. So you can imagine the value proposition that you're offering, somebody to take them to 10 million. So their fees are pretty substantial. So I love that model, but they understand plumbing so well. They know exactly the process. Like for instance, if you have a sewer drain that backs up, they advertise a $99 clean out and inspection, and they'll scope it. And you think, wow, $99 is cheap. The thing is, once they find a problem with your sewer line, that's a 10 grand job. So they're going after the 10 grand jobs, and they know all the metrics. They know like 75% of people that call in for an inspection or cleaning will convert. And then into the larger job, a third of them convert into a larger job. So they do all these metrics, and it come down to like, okay, this plumbing customer is prepared to pay $120 a lead. And,
makes sense.
They work it back, and it's just good to see agencies who provide good value and ROI, but then they're also making good money themselves, right. And they can really optimize their systems to a vertical, and then just go different city by city and expand their agency. Because you understand, as an agency, your expertise, there's a limit to how many customers you yourself can manage unless you start having processes and systems. But
yeah.
Who was the plumbing agency? Did you mention that earlier? I missed it.
Yeah, I don't want to mention them.
Okay. Oh, you mean Josh Nelson? It sounds like Josh's company.
Oh, is that the? I heard you guys talking about the 7-figure.
Agency.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Okay,
Josh.
I didn't know if that was who. I didn't hear you mention anything, so I didn't know if I'd missed something.
It's probably one of his disciples. I mean, there's 4 or 5 others that do HVAC or plumbing, and you probably start to go through it. He'd start laughing if we mentioned names that we know. But you hit a good point. I always say this on the agency side: the riches are in the niches. And I say that because you can be more efficient as an agency owner, but you hit the good point on, for the people that were like, for my real estate agents that I work with, for these plumbing companies that this unknown agency is working with, it's a lot easier to have conversations. Like, we speak real estate jargon, right? So we understand what buy sides are. We understand what lease backs are. We understand the industry. This person understands that plumbing industry. You can do a much better job. So yes, it makes us more money. It makes us more efficient as an agency, but it makes us more valuable to our clients by understanding the agency that we're jumping into. No different than that Ed's doing and Dustin's doing. Mark's white label, but Mark has some intimate knowledge on what some of these niches do. But really dialing in. So a lot of people will ask us, well, can you make a lot of money in this niche or this niche? And I say, well, you can make money in any niche, but you can be a lot more valuable to your clients if you understand what the hell they're selling or what they're doing, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's wildly important. But you touched on that. And I just wanted to bring that up. Like, we laugh, and I get a lot of people that make fun of me because I say the riches are in the niches, but at the same time, I understand the real estate industry, residential real estate industry intimately, and I can speak with any agent about all their stuff and what their pain points are, what's working, what isn't, how to help them move to the next level. Like you said, going from 5 trucks to 10 trucks, you have to have some pretty good knowledge of the plumbing industry, and like going and doing a $99 service, and knowing that turns into something bigger. That's huge.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's absolutely. The one thing I wished I knew is like understanding the value you're creating for your customer. It would have helped me in 2 ways. It would have helped me avoid bad fit customers. So customers that you just, no matter what you do, you're never going to get them value because their product just isn't going to sell enough. And then the other thing is I had a client where we charged $5,000 a month to do their SEO and their website. And I thought, yeah, that's a pretty good, this session is expiring in 15 seconds. Oh, no, sorry. Oh, sorry. That's never mind.
I was like, I'm on a paid account. What the hell is this?
I thought you got cheap on us for a minute there.
Yeah.
No,
Hey,
sorry.
what do you do? Cut budget over there?
It was on another window. Sorry, I was like, "What's that?" So the other thing I was going to tell this story. When I first moved to the USA in 2006, I had this customer, and we got him SEO results, and I charged him $5,000 a month, and I was pretty happy. That for the hours I was spending, it was a good rate. I mean, the only problem is the revenue he generated with high margins off of the leads from my work. He made $6 million a year, and I made $60,000 a year. His sales team made 10%, 600,000, and I'm making 60,000. So it's just like you look back and you're like, geez, if I understood the value, he would have easily paid me triple, quadruple, if I'd known that. But in hindsight. So now that's why when you say riches in the niches, I think it's, if you understand the niche, you understand the margin and the money they can make, and you understand that your marketing, and the leads and the value you can generate, then you can offer value-based pricing. So many agencies do cost-based pricing, which I think, sells yourself short. I believe in value-based pricing, which means you're going to have to choose your customers that are going to make you money and not choose the customers that, aren't going to work.
Yep. Well, I think it also comes down to understanding business and not just your agency.
Yeah.
Understanding how business works, understanding what cost of goods sold is, and understanding that revenue is not what falls to the bottom line like a lot of people think.
Yeah.
A $10,000 roofing job is not $10,000 in the owner's pocket. Everyone loves that niche, but
I know
what profit margin is. And
so do you know the metrics in the roofing world? Out of 10,000, what is the margin?
it's like
maybe
5 to 10%.
10%.
5 to 10%.
5 or 10%. Really?
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, as a true net. And that's excluding, owner salary on top of it. If you're running a truly budgeted business and not just living off of what's in the bank account at the end of each month. But I think it's important for you to know that in any business that you're operating in, especially if you go into niches.
Yeah.
Like Nick said, know your niche well. The more you can learn about that particular niche, the more valuable you are, the more you can value-based price, like you're suggesting. The more you could take equity positions in these companies as well. Once you know how much value you're providing and what your cost of goods sold is, you can come up with some really creative ways to get equity in companies.
Have you ever had a client that's taken you up on an equity-based proposition?
Not full equity. It's something I'm working on. I've had rev shares where it worked out really well for us. I made mistakes in that I didn't own the assets I was rev sharing in. So today I didn't capture the full value like I should have. Hindsight 2020, but the equity side of things is stuff I'm working on now. That's the direction I'd like to go into, and have a portfolio of companies that are, they're like you said. I can look at companies where we've provided way more value than we've captured. So So just looking for ways to basically get a better return on time.
Yeah. And that's something I want to work on, and just, work with agencies is like, how do we put the structure in place, and I think a lot of it's having that early discussion with the customer about, what the value is, where it is, what are you willing to spend on marketing, and what makes sense. And I think, you can avoid going down a path where you waste time trying to get results that they're never going to happen. So you guys with Google Ads, where do you guys see it going? Are you Google Ads? Are you Facebook? Are you committed for the future to the Google Ads?
Everyone
YouTube.
here is all Google Ads,
YouTube.
and then starting to dip into YouTube as well. But
I do Facebook as well. We do Facebook, Bing ads, but not TikTok yet. Probably looking at that toward the end of the year here.
TikTok. Okay.
We're going to start doing non-Google ads for direct clients. Google is somewhat frightening in the direction that they're going for agencies. So I have some concerns long term.
What concerns do you have?
Performance max. Just the general direction they want to go with. They seem to be pushing. They do this every few years though, but they're pushing more towards automated and less towards anything that would involve agencies. At least that's my view of it.
I think it's actually not the case. I think you're going to see a lot of people fall away because the dynamic now is changing with like Performance Max as an example, because that's all I listen to. That's all we're like getting up to speed on and testing with. Is it's just becoming more of you have to have a good offer, decent creative, decent messaging. It's just basically making advertising almost like advertising again, right? You're not just getting that one keyword, but you kind of are. But it's not only that thing. So now we're more reliant on, okay, we have to feed Google the intent of the people that we want, give them assets that will hopefully meet the goals that we want, and then know how not exactly how they work, but know the parameters in which these types of campaigns and this AI is working. And I know it's evolving, and it doesn't mean anybody has answers, but the point of it is like, there's going to be a lot of value when you get the average agency that's going to be like, I don't know what to do. I can't get results. And you do. Now you're all of a sudden in a better position. But I honestly think if you look at it, Facebook, what is Facebook? Same thing. I mean, you've got a creative and offer and maybe a geo audience at this point if you're doing local, because the interest stuff is going away, or, you pay a lot higher CPM sometimes for that. And with Google, I think it's the same sort of a thing, a little bit less visibility. But I honestly think that it's going to help us become better marketers, maybe not technicians of pressing buttons, but if you know how to make the machine, if you know how to set the machine up in the direction it should go, it doesn't mean it's always going to work. I'm just saying it's going to be a different paradigm than we have now, which if you look at Google ads marketers versus Facebook ads marketers, one thing I do know is that you've got one side that's very technical and very like keyword based, but can't write ad copy for crap. I mean, that's just the general norm. I hate to say it. And on the Facebook side, it's the total opposite. These guys are a lot more creative,
It's
a lot more
marketing-oriented.
better with copy, but horrible with tracking and attribution and anything. And not all of them, of course. I'm painting a very broad brush. I'm just saying on average, you kind of see the slant to either side.
What's the nature of that platform? But there's also a lot of our clients who aren't on Facebook for that very reason, because it doesn't work particularly well for the vast majority of local service businesses, for example.
Yeah, because there's a need because Facebook doesn't always understand the need at that moment. Like emergency-based stuff for Facebook's not going to work, right? But for when we run ads for cosmetic surgeons, well, maybe they weren't looking, but they like, hey, I want to look like that by Christmas, right? They weren't searching. So like, I feel like it depends on who you're targeting, what the niche is, what the offer is, because maybe somebody would get their AC fixed if they didn't Google it, if they saw a really good offer, which of course, financing's probably been done to death and all that. But that could be an example where it could work even on the home service side, if the offer is good enough, or if you can grab their attention. Because I know a lot of the guys in seven-figure agency that are doing some more like the painting, decorative concrete, pressure cleaning, kill it on Facebook. And those are kind of service-based things that are not emergency, but they're home stuff, right? But it's very visual. At that point, it's very visual. Right. Now I can see like, damn, I want my garage to look like that. And I actually see them all the time. My wife's always pointing them out because our garage, we did it. Now it's time to do it again. I'm like, I'm never doing it myself again. I paid for like the best material I could. I did the whole etching thing. I suck apparently, and it still comes up. So I'm like, I'm paying these guys like a 10-year warranty if I don't move. I'm like, that's it. I'm paying the money and I'm just going to have them do it. So,
oh man, the funny thing is, I remember when I started in SEO, I got to a stage when I was like, you know what, this SEO, you create a page around a topic, you put the keywords in the right places, and it's done. I thought SEO as an industry was going to die. I mean, genuinely. And I mean, it's stronger than ever now. I just think it's actually become a higher skill. Like if you try and find an SEO expert, it's difficult to find really good people. So I look at PPC and it's like, okay, they're showing less keywords. They're definitely going towards a trend on automated bidding trajectory. And it's like, yeah, it's like, why are they showing less keywords? And they're kind of saying, well, we know more about the customer than you do with all the data we can.
They should outperform me then.
Yeah. That reminds me of financial advisors where, what do they say? That 96% of them don't outperform the S&P 500.
Right. Yeah. So that's sort of the future that I see. And I tell everybody this, and I'm going to have this conversation with a problem child client that we have this afternoon. As you can call me whatever you want. An internet marketer is what a lot of people say. I'm an internet traffic broker. My job is to find you the cheapest, highest quality traffic to deliver to your site. And I can tell you where you need to put it on your site. I can tell you what you need to do with that. And in the end of the day, there's still going to be a massive value to that, even if it's performance max or not, because we're going to go back and we're going to tell Google, don't put it on this page, put it on that page.
That's very true.
Like the dynamic ads they want to run, they want to start running. So I think it's going to be turning into more of from an agency to a consultancy. And I know Mike Rhodes talked about that 5-6 years ago is what he was saying. You're going to be a consultant more than an agent. Google's going to take away those tools. But at the end of the day, you still have to work with the client and tell them, hey, idiot, don't spend money here when they want you to spend money here. Spend it here, and that's where you're going to make it. And nobody knows that. And you'll still be able to run an agency or a business, being an internet marketer. But I just straight out tell everybody when a common person asks me what I do, like I'm an internet traffic broker, no different than stock broker or a person like that. We do the same thing. We take your money and invest it for you intelligently. And I think it moves more towards that in the future, right? Google's going to keep taking away.
Well, I mean, it also comes down to like the website world. You can get a website built. You can do it for free by yourself. You can get website builders done for $100. But there's companies out there charging $1 million to build a website. There's a reason for that. And there's companies that need it done. And what's easy for a lot of website marketers is pretty difficult for the average company. So I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. I think honestly, if you think about the consulting model, because I think about this a lot too, Nick, I'm just speaking as a business owner now. I'm not saying I'm going to do this, but it requires less people to manage something like that. Like you don't need button pushers as much in your company because there's not as many buttons to push anymore. It's all strategy. It's in the setup. It's in the data optimization and the data in the reporting. And in creative, you might have to switch from more button pushers to more creative people for image assets, things like that. Okay, fine. But ultimately, I think it simplifies things in a way that, yes, it's scary and it's uncomfortable. But at the same time, when a shift like that happens, I just want to be on the right side of that shift. I don't want to be on the wrong side of that shift. So I feel like ultimately it's actually more fun when you have more strategy and it's not just button pushing. Personally, I like it. Mm-hmm. But I do think that, it's not going to be just an easy transition. It's not just going to be like, oh, yeah, Google's our best friend now. He's going to make it work well. But ultimately, I mean, we all have to admit, whether they use it for good or not, they know more about people searching than we do. We might be able to make them convert on our keywords because we know that part. But there's a lot of things happening before that we don't know that they do. And I think that's where they're trying to sell us on the value of that. And I believe there is value in that. The thing is, they don't only sell us that, they sell us everything else with it. So like we have to, you're kind of buying the baby and the bathwater is coming with it kind of a thing. So you don't get just the baby. We're used to having just the baby, our keywords, our landing page exactly this way. And we're like, this is my baby. Don't touch it, Google. Let me have it. And now it's going to be like, well, it doesn't water on that baby. Get the whole bathwater with it. So probably a poor analogy, but you're just not able to get rid of the crap as easily is what it looks like.
Yeah. And do you guys do any SEO?
Nope. Not anymore.
Not for clients.
I have ADHD. I can't sit around and wait. I got to have traffic now.
I like guys like you, Nick.
Yeah.
My type of client.
I used to actually consult Fortune 500 for SEO on proper structure and stuff. I'd be that guy that looked at the proposals and said, fraud, real, you know, when these large companies would get SEO, they get bids and they'd get these massive bids, and I'd go through and just red circle around, this is bullshit, this isn't real. So I still do that from time to time with my clients that do SEO on the real estate side. I'll be like, send me over the proposals. I'll expose it for what it is. Ask them to itemize what they're charging for each thing and tell you you'll pay for this, but not this sort of thing.
Yeah. I just like SEO because it's so aligned with keyword and search marketing. So if you can do it, it's a good, you know, it's a parallel.
It's a huge moneymaker too. I mean, if you can build your staff behind you properly and run a good solution, like you said, you can charge more than $5,000 if they're making $6 million off you, right?
Oh yeah,
because there's value in it.
But yeah, I mean that's one of the clients I still kind of, you know, well, I say I work with. He still pays me, and as long as he's getting leads every month and his phone's ringing, he's happy to pay me. And it started like with the PPC. We had a strategy with me talking to the salespeople. I got to a keyword strategy that worked really well for them, and I kept reminding him like, these are not always going to be this cheap, you know. And it took like 4 years for their competitors to figure it out. And they figured it out because the idiot's son went and told the competitors over lunch. So the Google ads spend quadrupled for the same amount of leads. And then I was like, you know what, guys, it's time to double down on SEO. So we just applied that to SEO. It took 6 months to get going.
Mm-hmm.
But then that SEO outpaced the previous PPC. And then through all that data, we're able to, you know, and the qualification and the value, we're able to like really target which keywords we're going to spend more on, which drives the most value. And yeah, he's super happy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up here. We ran a little over today. Michael, I'd love to have you back on to do a full demo walkthrough on screen share, kind of walk through the software, how it works. If you guys, Nick, Mark, Dustin, if you guys want to be on for that also, yes. If not, we can do it separate. Cool. All right.
Awesome.
Michael, how do people find you?
I don't know. If they email me, they might get a response.
I don't want to be found.
I suppose on LinkedIn. Yeah, Michael Cooney. Yeah, I mean my email. It's like a waterfall. You know, if I don't see it, it gets washed out. So probably on LinkedIn.
It's whatconverts.com.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
If they send a support ticket, they'll forward it to me.
All right, perfect. All right, gentlemen, that's it for today. Have a good rest of the day. I'm going to turn off the recording now. Hang out.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.